Okay, we're in the chapter 7 of Exodus, getting into the character of Moses a little more, and I think we're starting to get a handle on what it is he is and what it is he's up to. We'll read verse 1 to get started. I place you in the role of God to Pharaoh. And of course, Aaron was placed in the role of prophet. Well, both of those things, of course, aren't true. There is no such thing as prophet. You can predict the future. Anybody can predict the future. The chances of being correct, even if they're one in 100. I mean, how many variations are there on the future? If you look at the past, I mean, there are certain things that will happen. If we keep fighting, we'll keep having wars, and if we've always had wars, then it's easy to predict that wars will get going in the future and kill us all. I mean, that's happened over and over, so there's no prophecy in that. So, and God, of course, well, God we could look at another way. If you scratch your nose, it means you're about to lie. Okay. You could say that God is in everything. It wouldn't really mean anything. It's like saying an atom is in everything. I mean, an atom onto itself is a God unto itself. Can you say that? You can say that. I guess you can say anything. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But when you get to a point where you are a human being and you know that you are onto yourself, I mean, you are your own God. And I think Moses understood this. We would call it megalomaniac. But I don't think there's anything wrong with being a megalomaniac. I think we should all be megalomaniacs. We should just know what is a good way to conduct ourselves and what is perhaps less profitable to a future of human beings on this planet. And the basic laws will be physics, survival and physics. And all the laws that Moses gives us, well, they're nonsense for idiots in the desert, so we should actually ignore them. Alright, now here's an alarm. Verse 7. Moses was 80 years old and Aaron was 83. Now I'm trying to figure this one out, and there's no way that Moses is more than 30 because he's got to do another 40 years in the desert, and people did not live back then much past 50. So if Moses was in his 70s when he died 40 years later, then he was a very old man. Most people don't live much past 70 or 80 now, and we've got much better conditions than we did back then. Nobody lived to be 130 years old back then. It's just bullshit. So maybe that's what they're telling us. Maybe they're telling us, okay, this is an obvious lie. Notice it. And if I was writing a book that I knew was going to be a religion, and I knew that was not a good thing, but I had to write it anyway, I might stick something like that in, and because I know it would get by the censors, because the censors don't look at it anyway, they just want something written. So you put in a few things that are obviously wrong, so that eventually somebody will see everything here is a euphemism. Alright? Yeah, know that this is fiction. This is what we're saying. Noah was like 900 years old. No, he wasn't. We're not going to live to be 900 years old until things are a lot different than they are now, and that might be, I don't know, could be in 500 years, could be in 10,000 years, it might even be in 50 years. But that's always the question. That's a science fiction question. How old are we going to live to? But right now, living to be 100 is about as much as you expect. And for other obvious things in the Bible to warn us that we should see it is euphemism. And I think it was written with euphemism so that it could be written. I mean, when a book in fiction is written, it is always written in euphemisms. If I'm going to write a book about my life, I don't want to tell you about the things I do, so I make a character and make him, of course, better than me and somebody who's a bit of a hero. And that's what the writer does. So Moses becomes something more than life, and everything he does is something more than life, and that's how they communicate, and that's how it's a traditional Jewish communication when they were buying a lot for Jacob's wife that died, giving birth to Benjamin. He wanted to buy some land, and so he said, I would like the piece of land, and the guy said, well, it's worth 400, but I'll give it to you. And if Jacob would have accepted it, of course, he would have been doing the wrong thing. He said, no, I'll give you the price you've asked for, and then the deal is made. It's a friendly way to do business. Okay, I can give this to you, but it's worth 400 pieces of silver, which it wouldn't have been. A piece of graveyard worth 400 pieces of silver. That's way too much. I mean, Jesus Christ only got 30 pieces of silver, and that was 2,000 or 4,000 years later. Anyway, we're way off topic. Let's just quickly mention that, and also if it was written in the Bible that Jesus was dead for 3 days, from, somebody pointed this out the other day to me, from Friday to Sunday was actually 2 nights. But even if he was dead a half an hour, after you're dead for half an hour, your brain is so completely dead that even if you could get revived, you're going to be brain dead. So the whole thing is ridiculous. If somebody's been dead, even if it is only 2 days, when they said 3 and it's only 2, 2 days is still too long. 2 minutes, maybe. I think if somebody's dead 2 minutes, you could get them back. But the only way Jesus was dead for 2 days is if it's trying to symbolize something else, if it's a euphemism. And he might have been sleeping for 2 days, but I don't even think he went into the tomb. And we'll get right on back to Moses now.